So Extra Life 2024 has brought in a ton of money for charity, but also a ton of information about upcoming things in ARK that we're all really excited about. So in this video, we're going to break it all down, kind of go over absolutely everything. And yeah, real quick, I just want to mention, we did our charity stream the other day. I think so far we've almost raised 27,000 for Extra Life. That is absolutely fantastic. I'm so proud of my community, and just in general the wider ARK community as well, Wildcard and all the other creators. I think we're like around 130,000 in total, which is just absolutely bonkers. So I just want to thank everybody who's donated, whether it be me or to any of the other creators or Wildcard or whatever. It's for a really good cause, and obviously I've been doing this every single year for like the last 7 years, I think, and it's been a really good thing, and I'm just super happy and proud of my community for just coming out every single year and helping me out with my goals for that. But yeah, so I just wanted to thank you. You can still donate, by the way, the link's down below. But yeah, let's get into all the exciting new ARK reveals, and the first one comes for everybody. You don't need to buy this or anything. The giant bison is coming to Ragnarok in March of 2025. Now, that's a placeholder date, maybe? You know, Wildcard, they love delays. I mean, we love the delays as well, don't we? Yeah, I think we do. But yeah, so the giant bison, if you're not familiar, this creature's been in tons of creature votes. I don't know when the last one it was in, but it's been in so many, and I feel like they date back to like the Lost Island votes, if you remember those, from probably like 4 years ago almost at this stage, I would say. But yeah, so this creature has been in so many creature votes, and it's never won, and I think Wildcard have always wanted to have this in. Jad actually said recently on Twitter that they originally, with Ragnarok, they were gonna put in a creature like this, but they settled for the Griffin instead. And yeah, finally having this in for the Wildcard team, I'm sure they're really happy about it. But I mean, all the community that liked the idea of this creature, it's gonna be pretty cool to finally have it in there. And plus, Rag actually needed a new creature because the original creature voted for Ragnarok was, of course, the Gigantoraptor. And I don't even want to go over the history of how we got that creature and where it was moved to several times over. But yeah, in the end of the day, we are getting the giant bison. I'm just curious if they're gonna include like a bigger version of the cart. That would be really cool, kind of like an Oregon Trails type thing. I don't know, like one of those ones with like the giant kind of rounded tarps on the top. I don't know what they're called. They look awesome though, and I'd love something like that in the game with this giant bison. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And one more really nice piece of news. We have the official announcement that Nekatis, who is the original, well, I guess one of the original developers of Valgyro, he also made Fjordur, and he's made a couple amazing modded maps. Most recently, I've been playing on Astraeus, and yeah, he's actually coming back to start working on the port of Valgyro to ASA. We obviously don't have a date on that just yet, but it has been announced that he's going to be coming back, and hopefully he can bring some justice to the map that I think it does definitely deserve. But yeah, so that's probably coming next year at some stage, maybe along with a new creature. We have not gotten a creature vote for this one yet. Maybe they'll just kind of pick something that they want and put it in. I would not mind, honestly, because they put in the Deinonychus in this map, and that is one of my favorite creatures in the game. So yeah, that's super exciting. Jumping into some of the other stuff, we actually have a ton of reveals for Bob's Tall Tales Part 3, which is the Wasteland War Pack. And this obviously is part of the Bob's Tall Tales DLC. So if you already own that, you've already gotten the Frontier, you've got the Steampunk set. This is the third installment, and it's also the final installment of that DLC pack. And obviously, if you already own it, you don't need to buy it again. So yeah, this is the Wasteland War. It's almost kind of like Mad Max themed, and I love all these reveals. There's so many new things. There's like vehicles, there's the new creature, there's like new like structure skins, of course, and then this crazy new tower thing. But starting off right here with the cosmetics, because they look amazing. We've got the warrior set, which is actually going to go for males and females. Of course, it's just on a male character right here. But yeah, you can see right there, it's like all the detail. I can't even go over all of it. Just like there's so many spikes. It's like so just thrown together in like a really good way. And they were saying on the stream that this is probably what the actual people on the ARKs would have ended up making and wearing instead of the kinds of armors that we've had. You know, this is more in line with what they probably would have ended up wearing. And yeah, I absolutely love both of these sets. I do have to say I like the Warlord set a little bit better because it's got more like dino bones on it, and yeah, they both look absolutely fantastic. But let's take a little look at some of the helmets here because they look equally as crazy. So of course we're starting off with the Warlord helmet right there with the kind of feather mohawk. It looks like a little compy skull on there as well, and just this crazy almost like Sith Lord mask right there. I don't know, like that looks so good. But it's the one beside it that really sparks some interest to me. Obviously we've got like, you know, a dinosaur head made out of just like metal scraps, but in the back you may notice that, and I did too. I did actually ask on Twitter if we're finally getting my hairstyle back into ARK, and they said that they're working on it, but they don't have an ETA just yet. So yeah, maybe I'll have to wait a little bit longer, but maybe one day I will officially be Syntac in ARK, because I feel like I'd be just running around as this imposter in ASA for like a year and a bit now. So yeah, it's going to be finally coming eventually. In fact, Nekatis actually sent me a message on Discord showing that they do actually have a work in progress version of my hairstyle in the dev kit right there. And yeah, I'm excited. Finally, we can have the We Do Not Hate Syntac update. Maybe one day, we'll see. But yeah, moving on though, let's take a little look at this other helmet right here. That is, of course, just a closer look at the warrior helmet, and it looks really, really cool. And then the one on the far right is really amazing looking. It just gets, like, I get complete Star Wars vibes from that. I'm sure you guys do too. It looks absolutely insane. I love like the little kind of like the hood and everything. It looks so cool. And while we don't actually have any sort of screenshot or anything for this, they did actually mention how we're going to be getting a new weapon with this pack. It's going to be an explodable spear. So it's essentially going to be a spear with a little explosive on the end that you can throw, and it will stick to things, and then after like 5 seconds or something it will blow up and deal kind of similar to grenade damage. So yeah, I like the idea of that, you know, just aesthetics wise, it would be kind of cool to have like, you know, just like be able to throw like a TNT essentially at somebody. But that's gonna be so cool. Honestly, I'd love like a boomstick as well, just like an actual piece of like explosive on the end of a stick that you could just stab into something, and then, you know, maybe you reload it by just stabbing another explosive on the very top of it. That would be kind of cool. I don't know, but yeah, that's gonna be really cool eventually. Now, before we get to some of the absolutely insane new additions, we're gonna be talking about the Tribe Tower right here, which is gonna be a new structure that you're gonna be able to build, and it's essentially going to be something to try to encourage PvP players to not play and build their bases inside of caves only, because that, I guess, right now is the meta in PvP. People really only end up living in the caves. They want people to actually have bases outside of caves, just like in the plains and everything again. So this is their way of encouraging that. And essentially this thing has to be built with sky access, so you can't build it in a cave at all. In fact, you can like enclose this whole thing, but you can't enclose the very top. You need to leave it having full-on sky access or it won't work. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this thing do? Well, it's a one placement per tribe new structure, and essentially what it's going to do is it's going to build up buffs for you depending how long it's been. It's also going to have visual changes there as well, depending on how long it's actually been out. But so yeah, some of the buffs basically include pretty much every real life day that's passed by. It's going to get a stack of 1% XP gain for everything in your tribe. That's players, chibis, you know, creatures as well. So essentially having this thing out on PvP is going to pretty much buff up your whole tribe if you have it for a maximum of I think it goes all the way up to 20%. So if you have it up for 20 days, it's going to cap out at 20%, and you're going to have insane extra XP for your tribe. Now, another buff is if it's actually up for 30 days, you're going to get a plus 3% element drop from bosses, which caps out eventually at 15%. So yeah, basically the idea of just having the structure out is it's going to just essentially buff your tribe up. It's going to allow you to get more element, allow your tribe to be more powerful, and it's also actually going to get some visual changes as well depending on how long it's been up. I think this version that we're seeing right here in the photo is a pretty late stage version of it, so it might look a little bit wimpy at the very start, not very many decorations on it, but over time, as days add on to it, more of that kind of, you know, aesthetic will kind of bleed into it, and eventually I assume it will cap out at a certain point, maybe look something like this, or maybe even crazier. They said it's going to be around 8 foundations tall, so it is not a small structure. It's in fact probably one of the tallest, like, physical placeable things in ARK. I think, actually no, that kind of lines up with the Behemoth Gate, doesn't it? I think Behemoth Gate is 8 by 8. maybe they're wrong about the actual size, but either way though, it's gonna be gigantic. And yeah, the point of this thing is to essentially have one of these out if you're, you know, on a server in PvP. And, you know, for everybody that either has one out themselves or, you know, is in a world with somebody that already has one, your kind of aim is to destroy it, because when you damage it, it cannot actually be repaired at all. There's no way of doing that. So if it gets like all the way down to 10% health, it's going to be very, very vulnerable, and there's going to be no way to do anything about it. But yeah, so essentially you're going to want to protect your own one, but if somebody does destroy your one, they're going to have like bragging rights above their name. So it's going to say like destroyed tribe of Bob or whatever. So yeah, if you put one of these out, make sure that you protect it, or else somebody's going to be running around with a little tag on their name saying that they basically schooled you in PvP. I think it's a really fun extra wave, just adding some combativeness in PvP. And obviously I don't play PvP. A lot of people play PvE instead, and you're probably wondering, no, there's no way of actually damaging it. It's simply something that you can just have out. You know, you're going to be able to get those buffs eventually by just building this and having this out. You're not going to have to really do much about it besides fueling it. That is the one thing. You do actually need to fuel it by feeding it Apex trophies, which probably adds to this aesthetic that we're seeing right here. So essentially, I would assume that it's not just the alpha Apex trophies, which would mean feeding it raptor claws and T-Rex teeth and stuff like that. It should probably be just normal Apex trophies, so like T-Rex arms or, you know, thyla claws and all that kind of stuff. So anything like that should probably go into the inside of this thing and fuel it, which doesn't really make much sense, but I'm okay with it. It's a little creative way of essentially having this thing in here and giving more of a use to those items in ARK as well, actually. So yeah, that's really exciting. And the last thing is that you actually can add cosmetics to this. They have like a brand new cosmetic thing that they're working on, which they didn't fully explain, but there's something new coming. I think it's probably basically adding skins to things like the vehicles and this right here, but they did say that you can actually add trophies like, you know, your Broodmother head and your Megapithecus head and all that kind of stuff. You should be able to add that onto your tower to make it look even cooler, which I think is a really great idea. One last thing before we get into the vehicles and how exciting all that stuff is going to be. This right here is what the new skin set is going to kind of look like. We have a couple of things right here. We have the Behemoth Gate, which looks insane. We also have a version of the pillar and a door as well. And then we have this other image right here with a variation of the wall. And then we've got some railings there and then some skins for the storage box. And then of course it's not part of the actual skin set itself, but there will be some new light sources. So obviously in the Frontier set, we got a bunch of different lights. We got a bunch of new lights in the Steampunk set. And then in this one, that's just one example of the many new lights that we will be getting. But yeah, so this is the new skin set, and I think it looks absolutely amazing for the aesthetic that they're going for. This is just in any kind of map might look a little bit crazy. I think Extinction's probably the best suited map for a an actual, you know, like a skin set like this, because that looks absolutely gnarly. I don't even know. It looks like at the bottom of the Behemoth Gate, I don't know if you noticed this, there's actually a vault right there on the bottom of it. So it literally is just like thrown together pieces of, you know, scrap that survivors are finding. Spears up at the top as well. I love it. It looks so cool. They also actually mentioned how there will be a new kind of, like, I guess, fire variant. It's not going to be like a skin for the campfire. It's going to be a bonfire, and it's going to take up full foundation kind of size. And it's essentially just going to be a bigger version of the campfire. I don't know if it's going to have more slots for cooking more meat and stuff, but I think something like that is well overdue in the game, and I'm so glad that they're finally doing that. And then they did also mention how there is a new gate. It's going to be a 3x3 gate. So just for reference, the normal dinosaur gate is 3x2. It's 3 high, 2 wide. This new gate is going to be 3 high and 3 wide. So a little bit wider than a dinosaur gate, but that's going to be really cool to have, and it's going to be perfect for fitting your cars right through. Now, let's get to the cars. So the vehicles are going to be a very big part of the Wasteland War Pack, and right here you're seeing 3 variations of the actual vehicles themselves. So we have the buggy, we have the racer, and we have the monster truck. And each of those has 3 different sections. So we have the front section, which is kind of like your engine area. Then we have the middle section, which is going to be the cab. And then we have the back section, which is going to be the bed. Each of those pieces can be interchanged, so you could go ahead and have the front of a monster truck, you could have the middle of a racer, and you could have a back of the buggy. And yeah, you can kind of combine them in whatever way you want. They're just cosmetics. They don't actually have any different stats. What is different is the tires and suspension, which is the 4th part of a car. And essentially what it's going to be is the monster truck itself is going to have... It's going to be a slower speed, but you're going to have slightly better control. The buggy is actually going to be kind of in the middle of all of this. And then the racer is going to be faster, but you're going to have worse control. So essentially, yeah, you can decide which one of those is going to be better for you. If you're going to be moving around a lot slower, monster truck probably going to be the best. But if you want a really fast car from getting from like point A to point B, then definitely slap on those racer tires. But yeah, I really like this. Like, it's very customizable. They're leaving it up to you. Like, they could have easily put in 3 different cars, but instead they go ahead and just give us this and allow us to do whatever we want in terms of customizing them. Now, there is more customization, but first we need to talk about the garage. This right here is essentially a gigantic crafting station for these vehicles. So you can see right there just the sheer scale of this actual crafting station. Essentially, it's essentially got like a gigantic platform on the top, which you can actually build on, and I think they might have said it was like around 8x8. It looks like it's around 8x8 or maybe 10x10. But yeah, so if you wanted to, you could have your vehicle bay be the very bottom part of your base and just build everything up on top as like a gigantic tower. And now I'm giving away what I'm probably going to end up doing. But yeah, so this little like crafting bench is going to be your place where you're going to be able to do many things with the vehicles. First of all, you're going to be able to build a vehicle, you're going to be able to store them inside of there, and then you're also going to be able to repair them. And if you're building them or repairing them inside of the actual station itself, they will be visible like that one in the image right there. And yeah, like, just the aesthetics of this are just so cool. I love it. I absolutely love everything I'm seeing so far. And obviously we've got more information on the screen right here. But let's get to one thing before we fully get to all that. The actual vehicles themselves will run off of a new resource, which is gonna essentially be similar to gasoline, but probably a harder version of that to get, because they don't want it to be super easy for you to be able to just make a stack of gasoline and just run wherever you want with these vehicles. They want it to be a little bit harder to do than that right there. But yeah, so it's probably going to be maybe gasoline plus something else equals fuel for vehicles. So we'll see. Oh, and one last little thing about the garage itself is that no matter where your vehicle is, say maybe you accidentally drive it off of a cliff and it's somewhere where you can't get or something like that, or maybe you leave it in the bottom of the sunken forest, you can essentially TP it back to your base. And yeah, it's essentially just going to pop right back up where that vehicle is in the image. But yeah, a little bit less realistic, but it is what it is. It's probably for the best to actually, you know, make it a little bit more user-friendly for players, because you don't want to have to like go out and you know, drive out with a different vehicle, because you probably can't pick them up. So this is essentially their version of picking them up and bringing these things home. So yeah, I don't know, it's gonna be really cool. So there's a couple different attachments on the screen right here, but that's only a little slice of what we actually have coming. So there's 3 sections on the vehicle where you can actually attach things: the front, the rear, and then the bed. So we'll get to all 3 of those, but starting out with the front, obviously we can see right there we have the buzzsaw attachment. That is essentially going to deal a little bit of damage over time to anything that it's touching. So essentially, if you drive right up to a dyno, and like a Diplo, let's say for example, and just kind of stay right beside it, you're going to slowly be hurting that Diplo, and maybe eventually it will end up dying. Another thing is it's actually going to break resources in front of you. So if you drive into a rock with the buzzsaw on, it's essentially going to explode that rock, so it's not going to slow you down in any way. Then we have the spike grill right there, and essentially that's going to deal ram damage to anything that you ram into using your vehicle, but it's also going to actually deal thorn damage. So let's say like a T-Rex is in front of you hitting your car, anything that touches that, just like a spike fence, will get a little bit of damage bounce back onto them. So yeah, but there's actually 4 more front attachments that are not pictured I will go ahead and explain them though. So we have melee armor for the front, which is essentially going to protect your vehicle on the front from, you know, just like dinosaur attacks essentially. And then we also have the explosive / ranged armor, which basically does exactly what it says on the tin. If somebody shoots a rocket at your vehicle, or let's say they're shooting snipers or something, or maybe tech weapons, it's going to have a little bit more resistance to that kind of damage. Then we also have the spring bumper, which is going to reduce all incoming damage from the front, but it's also going to reduce collision damage. So the vehicles themselves can basically wear down over time, but also if you're ramming them into things all the time, they will get damaged a huge amount. And this is essentially going to reduce a little bit of that collision damage. And then on top of that, it's also going to go ahead and increase the knockback from the front. So if you run into like a dino or something, they could essentially get knocked back, but not a big dino. Let's say something smaller, maybe like a parasaur or something. Then we have the cow catcher, which is essentially going to shove creatures out of the way, and it's going to allow you to just like charge right through a bunch of smaller creatures. For the larger creatures, it will not do that. You'll probably fully collide with them, but yeah, I don't know. It could be quite a useful attachment, in my opinion, out of all of those right there. I would probably go with the spiked grill because it looks gnarly, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like it could be quite useful to like ram into creatures and kill them with your car. Next up, we have the back attachments, and we're starting off right there with the hook. It's essentially going to be a bit of a towing hook that you can shoot into wild kind of unconscious creatures, carcasses of creatures as well, and players, and you're going to essentially be able to drag them. But if you shoot it into an unconscious creature like a giga, maybe not a giga, that's probably too big. Let's say like a trike that you're taming. It will actually do damage when it hits the trike, and then as you drag the trike, it will get damaged. So if you're trying to tame something, you can use this to bring them into a pen, I guess, and then essentially wait for them to wake up and then re-knock them out to get them all teamed up with perfect effectiveness. Or you can use it to just troll people, maybe. It sounds like a real big troll. Then we have the afterburners, which essentially, again, does what it says on the tin. It's going to give you quite a significant speed boost. We have the jump jet, which is, of course, not pictured. It's essentially going to give you like a little bit of a rocket jump, so your car is going to be able to get over different kinds of terrain on mostly other maps. You know, maybe if you need to like jump the gorge or whatever in Springfield / Ragnarok, you could probably go ahead and do that with the jump jet. We have the smoke screen, which is going to deploy smoke out the back and kind of block the aggro of creatures. So if you're being chased in your vehicle by like a Rex or something, you're going to be able to kind of like, you know, just essentially throw a smoke bomb and then you're just gone like a magician. Then we have the mine dropper, which again does what it says on the tin. It's going to drop some mines at the back, and they're going to probably explode on whatever's chasing you, or could be another vehicle as well, actually. In that case, that vehicle should probably have the explosive armor on the front of their vehicle. And then we also have the slime dropper, which is going to drop out slime, kind of goop, that is going to slow down anything that goes into it. So a lot of these ones on the back are a little bit situational. You know, if you're being chased and stuff like that, you can get away faster, or you can go ahead and deploy mines or slime or smoke or whatever. I think that it's really cool. Just to mention as well, the front attachments are all kind of passive, so you don't need to be doing anything to make them work. And the back attachments are all going to be activatables, so you're going to have to hit some sort of button to get those to work. And then the final attachment for your vehicles is the turret, and there's 5 different variations of this. We have, of course, in the middle right there, a flamethrower, which is going to be not amazing range on it, because obviously fire shooting that really, really far would probably take incredible amounts of fuel. But yeah, you're going to be able to set things on fire behind you. And then we also have the shotgun, which is going to be quite a low-ranged gun as well. Obviously, it's going to blast a couple big-ass, like badass shotguns like that against whatever's chasing you. We have the Seeker missile launcher, which is mostly going to be targeting flyers. So if you're getting chased by a wyvern or something like that, you can go ahead and just basically lock onto a creature like that. But when it comes to land creatures, you won't lock onto them, but you can just go ahead and try to free fire and hit them with these little missiles. We have the cannon, which is going to be quite a heavy shot, but it's going to have a very, very long cooldown on it. So it's going to be one that you're going to want to actually take time and make sure that you're going to hit your target before you take that shot. And then we have the minigun right there, which of course is going to be shooting at a very, very fast rate. And you may or may not hit every single shot, but you're going to probably be shooting too many to really matter at all. Now, these parts right here actually go into the back part of the vehicles themselves. the bed. So essentially, if you're on the racer, it's going to be right there. If you're on the buggy, it's going to be right there. And then, of course, if you're on the monster truck version of the back part, obviously you don't have to have all three of these pieces. It's going to be in that little slot right there. But you can choose to not add that onto your vehicle, because the vehicles themselves don't come with these attachments. You have to add them on yourself and choose which ones you want, and you'll probably have to get them all unlocked first of all. But if you don't want anything on the bed, it's actually going to be a 1x1 foundation area that you're going to be able to build in, which is not super generous, but it's enough space to at least fit a bed and maybe a storage box and maybe some other stuff. I'm sure a lot of people could probably squeeze a huge amount of stuff into just a 1x1. But yeah, I don't know. Could be quite useful for like a little fob or something like that. But of course, one more thing to mention is the vehicles themselves have 2 seats in the front, obviously the driver's seat and then the passenger seat. And if you're a passenger, you're going to be able to shoot out of it. And then the third seat essentially is going to be the back turret. So anybody that's on that is going to also be able to be on the vehicle. So technically, a vehicle itself could carry 3 people doing those kinds of things, or you could build a bunch of benches on the back and carry as many people as you can fit. But yeah. It's a little silly. Now, if you're a solo player, it is actually going to be possible for you to be able to operate one of these turrets on the back, but then also drive the vehicle at the same time. Although it doesn't seem like these turrets could spin around and face the front at all, so you will be driving completely blind, just being able to kind of go forward or, go around in circles or something if you wanted to. But I do think that's kind of good, but it would be kind of nice if the turrets could turn around. It just doesn't really look like they will be able to, but we'll see. So last but definitely not least, we have the new creature, the Armadillo. Of course, in Scorched, we got the Oasisaur. In Aberration, we got Cosmo, and this is going to be the new creature that's going to be available for Extinction, and probably only for Extinction as well moving forward. But yeah, this creature is extremely interesting. It's got like just a huge amount of things that it can do, and a brand new kind of tame system that allows it to essentially never die. So you're going to be able to set this guy into companion mode, and that is essentially going to mean that it's going to kind of stay by you all the time whenever it can, and it's gonna like ride on tames with you. So if you hop onto your RG, it's gonna like sit probably in front of you or something like that, and it's just gonna stay by your side all the time, which just sounds amazing. A little companion. It's also gonna mean that this creature actually cannot die, which to some people may sound a little bit OP, but hear me out. First of all, the creature, if it gets dealt lethal damage, let's say, it gets dealt enough damage to bring it down to 0, instead of dying, this creature is essentially going to go ahead and burrow into the ground, and there's going to be like a cooldown timer of around an hour, and then eventually it's going to come back to you. So it's kind of a way to essentially have a creature where, you're not going to have to like worry about taking risks with it, because at the end of the day, if it can't die, then you don't really have to worry about that. You can feel free to have this creature with you all the time, and it's not going to take up a chibi slot or anything like that, so you can still have your own chibi and this dude running around all the time, and it's a super useful creature. So one really useful thing it's going to be able to do for you is sniff out some buried treasures. So basically just probably like a bunch of items and maybe even like low tier blueprints. I don't know if it's exactly going to work like the shovel does for the Frontier pack, but yeah, it's going to be able to get you items and different things from the ground, maybe even just some new stuff that we haven't even seen before, because out of some of the teasers for the Wasteland War, it almost kind of hints that there's probably something to do with maybe like upgrades to weapons and maybe new ways to like upgrade them. We're not really sure about that, just based on what they said before, but yeah, so maybe it could have something to do with that. Maybe there's new pieces that we essentially have to get. I've seen some people talking about maybe it's like an idea of almost like traits for weapons, but we'll see how it works. It's also going to be able to go ahead and essentially scare away dinos if they come at you. So this is going to be probably perfect for me, because I need something to scare away Microraptors. No matter where I am, they never leave me alone, and the Cinemacrops is not in the game yet, so something like this would be fantastic. Actually, that reminds me, having this creature with you does not replace your shoulder pet either. So shoulder pet, chibi, and Armadillo. Yeah. This is awesome. Another thing to mention is that this whole kind of companion thing could be heavily expanded in the future, and I would love to see new companions being added, because, I like dogs and cats. I wouldn't mind a cat as well. That would be kind of cool. And, there's probably a bunch of other kind of ARK dinos, like, you know, and stuff like that, they could go ahead and add. I don't know. And they've also made sure to go ahead and add a bunch of emotes for this thing, so you're going to be able to get it to sit, do a bunch of different tricks, and hopefully even belly rubs as well. It's also going to add a new item into your inventory when it's in companion mode called the dog whistle, and it's going to kind of work a little bit similar to how Cosmo worked, where obviously when you had Cosmo on your shoulder, you got the little web shooter in your inventory, which could not be taken out of your inventory unless, you know, Cosmo hopped off your shoulder. But once this guy's in companion mode, nobody can take him out of companion mode but you. So you're gonna have this little dog whistle to be able to control him and get him to do a bunch of different things like that, maybe even do the tricks and stuff. But yeah, you're going to be able to add that onto your hotbar and control him if you want to. But there's a lot more to this creature. We've barely even scratched the surface. I'm being serious. It's insane. So, of course, we do have armor for the Armadillo, and this is the base set right here. So this is essentially just your kind of like basic version, because there's 12 other upgraded kind of variants of armor for the Armadillo. But just in general, it looks really cool. I'd love if they had like a little customizable dog tag. I don't know if they could really do that, but that symbol right there is actually, I think, I can't remember what the name of it is, but that's on like the newer tech suits right there. So I don't know, maybe those people had something to do with these guys. So here's some of the different saddles for the Armadillo, and as you can see, there's so many of them right here. We're gonna go through these 6, and then there's another 6 after this. So first of all, we have the bag, which is essentially going to allow you to add in a bunch of extra items, and it's probably going to reduce the weight of a bunch of items inside of Armadillo. We have the med pack, which is going to basically like passively heal you, and also if you get down to 20% of your total health, the Armadillo will automatically heal you from its med kit. But these abilities are going to actually have a little bit of a cooldown on them, so you're not going to be able to do that constantly. It's not going to be broken, but you know, maybe every 10 minutes or something, it's going to be able to do that for you. So it could be quite useful. Then we also have the extra armor, which is essentially just going to go ahead and, you know, add extra armor onto the creature. It's going to take even more reduced damage on top of its normal armor. And then we have these spikes, which is going to deal recoil, kind of like thorn damage to anything that's going to hit it. And obviously it's going to slightly increase its damage output as well. We have the meat sack, which is going to be very interesting. It's going to draw the aggro of anything that's after you to Armadillo, and you're going to be able to tell that thing to like run in the opposite direction. So if you had a bunch of creatures coming at you, you could go ahead and activate that, get Armadillo to just leave. And remember, it can't die, so you could get it to run over there and they could attack it, and essentially, yeah, you don't have to worry about anything. It's going to be completely fine. But it's going to be a really great way of maybe even cheesing some bosses. I don't even know. That's what I thought of initially when I heard about that. But yeah, super crazy. We have the speed buff, which is going to give Armadillo and the player itself a little speed buff for a short period of time. And whether or not like that's super fast and worth it, we'll see. But yeah, could be kind of useful. Next up, we have the food basket, which just it's the most ridiculous thing ever. So essentially, it's going to go ahead and feed you and water you what you should be doing for your dog. It's going to do those things for you when you get low on food or water. I don't even know. That's so strange. But yeah, that's what that one does. I don't know if you have to refill it at all, like if you actually have to have food in its inventory and canteens full of water, but we'll see. Probably not. We have the chibi basket, which is more of a gimmicky kind of one. It looks like you can put 2 chibis on the inside of Armadillo right there, and it's going to gain experience for those chibis while you're just out and about. Next up, we have the spyglass, which is going to be essentially a version between the regular spyglass and the tech binoculars. So it's not going to be as powerful as the tech binoculars, but it's not going to be as basic as the normal spyglass. My interpretation is it's probably not going to show you the exact like health stat and everything like that, but it might show you stat points, which could be kind of huge for like going out and taming. So I might end up using that one the most, but it also kind of looks like a spy dog, and I really like that. Next up, we have the rolled sleeping bag, which is going to allow you or anybody on your tribe to spawn at your Armadillo. That's right. You can essentially get somebody to spawn on you, and if they also had an Armadillo with that exact same one, then they could bring somebody, and you could just bring a whole roster of people into an area using your Armadillo, and then their Armadillos being used by other people, and just so on and so forth. Obviously cooldowns on all these things are a big thing, but yeah, I don't know. That could be kind of ridiculous. Next up, we have the ammo box, which is going to essentially feed ammo to your weapons. Even if you have ammo in your inventory, it's going to prioritize what is inside of Armadillo instead. So let's say you had 100 shotgun shells on you, and you had 100 in Armadillo. You'd have to go through that 100 before you're going to start using any of your 100. So yeah, quite useful, honestly. And then obviously with the final one right here, we have the oxygen tank, which is just like Space Doggo. I love it. So yeah, obviously you don't go to space with this thing, but Armadillo will have increased swim speed and oxygen. You know, it's not going to have to worry about any of that, but it's also going to give those buffs to you as well. So yeah, you can go scuba diving with your dog if you ever thought that you might like to do something like that. A couple other things to mention is Armadillo is a normal creature as well. You can go ahead and tame 100 of these things and having them run around with you if you want to, but you could have your one in companion mode. All 100 of those could die, but your one will not. So they are breedable, they are mutatable, they are levelable, but they're a little bit different than normal creatures. They're gonna level with your character. So essentially, I guess if you're just out and about doing things with your doggo, it's going to be getting levels at the same rate that you're getting levels from the sounds of it. So yeah, it could be quite useful. I don't exactly know how that works. Like if I'm level 100 already and I equip one of these guys as my companion, is it going to start out at level 100, or do I have to get another 100 levels worth of XP to get that thing to level 100? I don't really know, but we'll find out eventually. You're going to be able to have items inside of Armadillo that are obviously not going to be droppable, because if it's in companion mode and somebody kills it, it's not going to drop those things, I don't think. So that's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of like your own little, like, I guess, ender chest or terminal or something like that. Kind of insane. And then on top of that, it can actually also have artifacts. You can put artifacts inside of its inventory, which makes it the second creature in ARK that can do that, the only other creature being the otter. So yeah, and I think I got all the information, but there's probably so much more, because this creature is just so crazy. Like, not only does it have the most variations of like saddle designs and stuff like that, it just seems to have the most uses out of, like, the most useful kind of creature out of anything that's ever been added to the game. Because like they add in creatures, but they don't ever add this much. This is crazy. So yeah, I'm super excited to get one, and I'm super excited to inevitably get one that is blue. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, but I'm super excited. I really want one of these guys, and the fact that it doesn't die if it's in companion mode makes it even better, in my opinion, because it's kind of boring sometimes when you get really cool looking creatures and they're a little bit vulnerable to damage and stuff like that. Like, I never liked bringing Winston, my otter, out and about, because if Winston died, I'd be really upset, and you guys would have been too. But, you know, I don't know, this whole companion kind of gimmicky kind of mode, it's a little bit strange, but at the same time, I think it's something that maybe ARK players kind of would really enjoy. If they had more creatures in here as companions, I would definitely not say no to any of that. Like, that all sounds great. But yeah, like I said, I think I pretty much got everything to do with Armadillo here. They talked about him sporadically throughout the whole stream, and it's kind of hard to watch it all because I was in Paris throughout most of it. But yeah, you know, it was a great stream, and there's been so much information, and hopefully this video was good enough to explain a lot of that stuff, because there's just so much. Like, it's crazy. I'm super excited though, honestly. Wasteland War looks to be fantastic, and I mean, you know, for the first time in a couple months, I'm actually kind of excited for some ARK stuff right now. You know, it's been a little bit dull, and now this looks bright, and I'm super excited. Anyway, Wasteland War is dropping in December, around probably the 16th, but expect it maybe closer to Christmas. We'll see. But yeah, so expect it in December, potentially, unless more delays happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, do me a favor, drop a like, drop a sub, and yeah, we'll be playing this stuff when it eventually comes out, and covering it all in great detail. So yeah, stick around for that stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one.